Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in what seems like a quiet, sun-drenched town, Shakespeare, Arkansas. But, as you can probably guess, that small town tranquility is often just a cover for some deep, complex, and, well, sometimes murderous secrets.
And at the center of it all is our main figure, Lily Bard. She's a character just built on contradictions. She's a meticulous, very precise cleaning woman by day.
And then a ferocious karate expert by night. But most importantly, she is a survivor. A survivor carrying these terrifying memories that just refuse to stay buried.
Yeah, and the sources we've gathered detail Lily's life as she really hits a breaking point. You see, the fallout from her past trauma isn't just psychological, it's physical, it's violent, and it's starting to threaten the single most important relationship she has.
So this deep dive is going to track her very reluctant decision to join a local survivors group, her kind of surprising pivot into private investigation.
And how those two worlds, healing on one hand and surveillance on the other, collide. And they collide spectacularly, right in the middle of a shocking series of crimes that just shake this little town to its core.
Our mission today is, I think, pretty ambitious. We need to fully unpack Lily's journey. Her journey from this self-isolated, hypervigilant survivor to an active, if reluctant, participant in unraveling a really profound conspiracy.
And we're going to look at the nature of trauma and recovery, the philosophical side of self-defense, and ultimately we're going to discover the truly disturbing identity of the stalker who's lurking right inside the town's own support system.
This is a story about how pathology doesn't always wear a villain's mask. Sometimes it wears the mask of a therapist.
To really get the stakes in Shakespeare, you have to start with the magnitude of Lily's ongoing struggle with trauma. This isn't just, bad memories.
No.
It's a physiological reaction that turns her into a weapon while she's asleep. The source material is it's brutal. It opens with this image of her nightmares literally spilling into physical reality.
We're talking about her nearly killing Jack Leeds, her partner. She wakes up after connecting a hard blow to the nose, and she's on top of him, gripping his neck and starting to squeeze.
And she's completely lost in the memory. She's back in that shack in rural Tennessee, held captive by bikers for 3 days of absolute terror.
And this is not a one-off thing. The sources are very clear. Jack ends up with blood streaming from his nose and red marks on his neck.
Yeah. She tried to murder the man she loves because her subconscious survival instincts just completely took over. That moment, there, that's the catalyst for everything.
She realizes her hypervigilance, her self-reliance, is actually destroying the one relationship she truly depends on.
Exactly. She doesn't want to hit Jack again. And that one single thought is what motivates her to finally join the group therapy session, even though she has this deep, deep aversion to talking about herself or her past.
It's a fascinating inversion of her coping strategies, isn't it? For years, her survival's been all about aggressive self-sufficiency and control. She is, as the sources describe her, pretty damn muscular.
Well, yeah, and she attends karate class religiously. She really embodies this philosophy that being responsible for your own safety means, one, learning to fight, and two, just perpetually maintaining this high level of caution.
That physical competence is a direct reaction to what happened to her. She doesn't trust the world. She certainly doesn't trust institutions like the police or therapy.
Her body's the only system she really believes in, the only thing that can protect her. But now, that same system is attacking her partner, and that forces her to consider, being vulnerable for the first time.
And this physical powerhouse, this karate expert, spends her days navigating the highly structured world of a cleaning woman in Shakespeare, Arkansas. Her precision cleaning work is like a psychological anchor for her. It's a way to impose order on a world that feels totally chaotic.
And her clients are just this perfect cross-section of the town. You've got the established Winthrops and Drinkwaters, whose homes are probably as orderly as Lily needs them to be.
And then there's the delightful disruption, Carol Elfess.
Right. The contrast here is so important. Carol is described as anemically attractive, religious, and stupid. And her house is just pure anarchy. It's just filled with the debris of 4 children.
Heather, Dawn, Cody, and Tyler.
Yes. And Lily, who is the queen of order, is in there giving Carol the best value for her money, wading through, paper fish and cotton ball sheep left over from Bible school crafts.
It really shows her internal conflict, doesn't it? Her need for cleanliness clashing right up against the unavoidable mess of real life.
And it's right there, in the middle of all that domestic chaos, that Lily gets this really unexpected piece of validation that that really crystallizes her decision to go to therapy.
From 5-year-old Heather Althouse. Heather is watching Lily, who is meticulous enough to be teaching the little girl hospital folds for the bed sheets.
An amazing detail.
It is. And then Heather just delivers this incredibly blunt assessment. You don't look crazy.
Oof, that has to sting.
Oh, it does. The sources say she just stops, a bundle of dirty sheets in her arms, and she's forced to confront the image she projects to the world. She realizes her constant vigilance, the way she carries herself, might look like instability or anger to other people.
And when Heather asks her why she does karate, Lily gives her the mission statement of her entire life. She does it to show them she is not afraid.
That exchange, the innocent question and Lily's defensive answer, it just pushes her past the point of no return. It confirms that her public image is totally defined by her trauma. She commits right then to going to the therapy session.
It's this internal recognition that just fighting or cleaning her way through life isn't enough anymore.
But just as she's accepting this new level of emotional vulnerability, we have to talk about the third layer of her identity. She's also training to be a private investigator for Jack Leeds.
Which seems like a perfect fit, right? It blends her cautious nature with her physical skills.
Exactly. And Jack, who left the Memphis police force under a black cloud, which hints at his own complicated past, he sees her innate talent for observation and self-defense. He thinks she has all the necessary skills.
She's cautious, she's detailed, and as a cleaning woman, she's completely inconspicuous.
Her first undercover assignment, though, is wonderfully low-key. She has to infiltrate the Marvel gym in Little Rock.
A deluxe facility.
Yeah.
Someone is stealing cash, jewelry, cell phones from the changing rooms. The manager, a guy named Mel Brentwood, he suspects a staff member, but Lily's job is just to find the thief, whoever it is.
And the visual of Lily, the martial arts expert who values practicality over everything, having to wear a costume, a leopard print spandex unitard is just fantastic.
With puffy Marvel letters across her chest, it's exactly the kind of ridiculousness she would normally avoid, which just highlights the lengths she'll go to for Jack and for the job.
And the actual bust is completely anticlimactic, which I think is the whole point.
It is. She deliberately places her purse. She catches a guest, a woman named Mandy Easley, red-handed stealing a $20 bill. She follows Jack's instructions perfectly. Mandy's membership gets refunded, no police are called, and the assignment is successfully completed.
It's a crucial grounding moment. Lily realizes that real detective work is mundane compared to what you see on TV or in movies.
Yeah, it's not about blazing guns. It's about meticulous preparation, waiting, and then catching someone in the act of a minor theft. She gets this mundane satisfaction from it.
And this really prepares her for the next job, which is just pure patient surveillance work. Monitoring a woman named Bonnie Kreider in Conway for a workers' comp claim, it just solidifies her ability to move seamlessly between, physical action, emotional control, and very patient observation. Okay, so with Lily now committed to self-help, she goes to her first session at the health center. She steps out of the very private world of her cleaning clients and her partner and into this collective of intense shared pain.
And there she meets Tamsin Lynd, the therapist, who is described as dark, soft, and someone who talks a lot. And, of course, the other members of what they call the survivor circle.
This group just provides a rapid and, frankly, devastating education in the sheer variety and depth of trauma that's all concentrated in this one small Arkansas town.
It's probably easiest if you sort of mentally categorize them by how they're coping,
Okay, so let's start with the familiar face, Janet Shook. She is Lily's exercise and karate partner.
Right. And Janet's trauma, a rape, has been resolved only by fate. The perpetrator, a guy named Mart Weekins, died later in a car crash. He was trying to pass on a yellow line. So for Janet, the need to report or seek justice was just. It was physically eliminated. She represents the survivor who got accidental closure.
Then you have Carla Preston. She's approaching 50, a constant smoker, visibly hardened by life.
Carla was drugged and sexually assaulted while she was unconscious after winning some money shooting pool at a place called Velvet Tables. And the detail here is just so disturbing, so dehumanizing. The perpetrators left her keys stuck up her privates.
And Carla embodies this unresolved rage, a private commitment to her own justice. She didn't report it, saying chillingly, "I know where they live."
Next up, you have Fiorella. She's the assistant principal at the junior high, moved from New Orleans. She was raped at the school by a student.
So she's the professional, the authority figure whose trauma undermines her entire standing in the community she's supposed to be serving, a total institutional betrayal.
Exactly. Then there's Melanie, She's described as a plump blonde with an angry cast to her features. She was also raped, and she has a direct connection to the horror that's about to unfold. Her sister-in-law was Charlaine Harris.
So Melanie is the survivor whose pain is all tangled up with the criminal justice system, since her rapist was married to the woman who will become the first murder victim.
And finally, the most fragile member of the group, Sandy McCorkindale. She's the preacher's wife, and she is just desperately clinging to this respectable veneer.
She's married to Reverend Joel McCorkindale, and her just being in the group is a constant source of fear and distress for him. It really demonstrates how public respectability often just masks the deepest private suffering.
So when it's Lily's turn to share her story, she recounts her Memphis ordeal, the abduction, the captivity, the rescue, with her typical blunt precision. It was actually so high profile that Melanie remembers seeing it in the papers years ago.
Which establishes Lily not just as a survivor, but as a publicly known case.
Right. And what happens next is this incredibly important discussion on victim blaming. Farella, surprisingly, opens up. She admits that when she first heard Lily's story years ago, her initial harsh thought was that Lily was asking for it, walking after your car had broken down.
But she quickly reverses course. She acknowledges this intellectual and moral realization that women had a right to walk anywhere they wanted, with no one bothering them.
And this is the goal of therapy, right? Confronting that ingrained societal blame. But Lily, she brings her pragmatic, survivalist perspective to the table. While she agrees that stupidity and/or poor judgment are not punishable by rape,
She relentlessly reinforces the importance of self-defense and caution. For Lily, that initial thought Farella had, the assessment of risk that's necessary for survival, even if the violence that might result is never, ever justified.
it just sets up this core tension. Can Lily learn to accept vulnerability when her entire identity is built on eliminating risk?
And that question immediately becomes relevant to the therapist herself, because despite being the expert guide here, Lily quickly realizes Tamsin Lynd is not safe at all.
Tamsin's backstory and her current stressors just suddenly take over the entire narrative. Lily and Jack are walking near Tamsin's house on Compton Street when they discover this gruesome theatrical piece of persecution.
It's a squirrel found hanging from a mimosa tree by its cutthroat, displayed like some macabre Christmas ornament.
It's not just a sign of stalking. It's a specific, aggressive message that is meant to terrorize. And Tamsin is hysterical. She immediately accuses someone, saying, "You know it was him. You know that." She confirms she's been getting threatening phone calls.
Her husband, Cliff Eggers, who's a medical transcriptionist, is strangely passive about the whole thing. He dismisses calling the police, claiming they couldn't do anything before.
Which tells Lily this has been going on for a long time, and the police have been useless.
Huh?
Lily, the trained investigator, immediately recognizes this as active, high-stakes stalking.
And Jack's caution to Lily is vital here. He says, watch your step around her. He's acknowledging that Tamsin is a magnet for danger, and Lily could easily become collateral damage.
Which is exactly what's about to happen.
Yeah.
It foreshadows this devastating collision between Lily's path to healing and a full-blown criminal investigation.
The collateral fallout doesn't just happen. It explodes.
Okay.
Barely a week after that squirrel incident, the group arrives for their session, and they find the heavy metal side door to the health center is locked.
Which is strange, because Tamsin's car is in the parking lot, and so is Janet's.
Lily's trained observational skills immediately kick into gear. She doesn't panic, she investigates. She pulls out her tiny keyring flashlight, a mundane detail that just highlights her constant state of readiness, and she discovers why the door won't open.
There's a thin chip of wood. It's wedged meticulously into the bottom crack of the door, deliberately preventing anyone from getting in from the outside.
That little chip of wood is so telling. It shows a meticulous, calculated mindset. Someone planned the timing of this, ensuring no one could easily follow them in.
Once Lily, Farella, Melanie, Carla, and Sandy manage to get inside, they find Tamsin's office in complete disarray. Papers are scattered everywhere, and the atmosphere is just thick with violence.
And then, the horror behind Tamsin's desk, they find a woman's naked body. And she's not just murdered, she's impaled with a stake through her heart.
And strung up with string attached to nails in the wall. It's a staging. The source describes the redness as considerable. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a deliberate act of terror and display.
And Janet Shook, Lily's karate partner, is found unconscious nearby. She'd been hit on the back of the head.
And the victim is identified by Melanie. She says, "That's my sister-in-law who was married to the man who raped me." It's Charlaine Harris.
Right. And Melanie confirms her husband, Tom Kleinhoff, the rapist, is already in jail on other charges, which means the killer is someone new, someone local, and possibly someone connected to the survivors circle.
The initial suspicion, of course, falls on Tamsin or someone targeting Tamsin. When the police finally arrive, Tamsin is found hiding in the soundproof therapy room, locked inside.
And her story is that Sarah Lynn, who was a new member, had arrived early for an orientation speech. Tamsin says she left Sarah Lynn in the office for just a moment, went to the soundproof room, and then locked herself in after hearing the killer enter. She admits she was too scared to answer or to help.
This admission is so critical to Lily's evolving perspective. Lily, who bases her entire life on physical competence and intervening when necessary, is deeply suspicious of Tamsin just cowering.
Yeah, Tamsin, the psychological expert, claims she just froze in terror while a woman was being executed just a few feet away. It completely contradicts the image of the therapist as this competent, helpful professional.
That suspicion gets temporarily diverted, though, when the group confronts Tamsin in a later session. Sandy McCorkindale, the reserved preacher's wife, she just breaks her carefully maintained veneer of silence.
She says she's afraid the murder is connected to one of them, and then she delivers this absolutely seismic, devastating confession.
Sandy reveals her own trauma. 20 years ago, she was raped by her 58-year-old grandfather, and she became pregnant. After she miscarried the baby, she poisoned him with spiked coffee while he was in the hospital.
Wow. I mean, that is a massive thematic pivot. It shows that the true dark secrets in this group are not just about victimhood, but about retribution and survival taken into their own hands.
Exactly. The sudden revelation of Sandy's violent, calculated revenge shifts the scrutiny away from Tamsin's inaction. It just highlights the deep, explosive secrets shared by everyone in the survivors' circle. They are all dealing with incredible moral and emotional complexity way beyond what they talk about in their weekly sessions.
And meanwhile, the formal investigation is ramping up, and Lily's work as a PI starts to overlap in this really dangerous way. Jack senses the complexity of it all and starts investigating the two new, highly conspicuous faces in the Shakespeare police force.
Detective Alicia Stokes and patrolman Gerry McClanahan.
Let's look at Alicia Stokes first. She is tall, black, aggressive, and clearly highly intelligent. Lily immediately pegs her as exceptionally dedicated.
And Jack's inquiries reveal she's from the Cleveland Force, and her history is, well, it's fascinatingly bizarre.
Yeah.
She is obsessed with Tamsin Lynd.
Stokes has this highly unconventional theory. She believes Tamsin is a victim of self-persecution. She was monitoring Tamsin back in Cleveland, convinced Tamsin was staging minor crimes herself for attention or sympathy.
So she took a leave of absence, specifically to follow Tamsin to Shakespeare, believing Tamsin staged the crimes to, validate her own trauma narrative. Lily, recognizing that single-minded focus, she compares Stokes to Inspector Javert.
But the other new face is even more deceptive, patrolman Gerry McClanahan. Initially, he's seen as this plain, pale man with freckles and red hair, but Lily's detective work quickly reveals he's something else entirely.
Her meticulous memory lets her recognize his disguise from an old magazine article.
Yeah, she spots an article about a reclusive true crime author named Gibson Banks. The publisher had released this photo of him in a tracksuit, baseball cap, sunglasses, and it's McClanahan. He is Banks.
The key detail was his heavy gold college ring, which Lily had spotted tapping against her car door, and the fact that he was seen walking his two little dachshunds.
Banks took the patrolman job as a cover story, which is a stunningly audacious move, to follow the Tamsin Lynd story for a new book. He was obsessed with the drama between Tamsin, the perpetual victim, and Stokes, the detective obsessed with Tamsin's potential self-persecution.
To him, Lily and Jack were just a sidebar to this amazing tale. And the audacity of that journalistic exploitation is just shocking to Lily, who values authenticity and privacy above all else.
So Lily is preparing to confront Banks, horrified that her own healing journey is being used for literary fodder when the violence escalates again. Jack gets an anonymous phone call,
telling him Lily is in trouble, a blatant setup designed to draw him back to Shakespeare.
Jack rushes back. They find McClanahan murdered in his backyard, which happens to be catty-cornered to Tamsin's house. He's been stabbed in the throat, the wooden handle of a knife sticking out.
A targeted hit,
right,
moving the key witness who was documenting everything that was happening.
And who do they find nearby? Cliff Eggers, Tamsin's husband. He's discovered there crying, claiming he found the body while taking out the trash.
Cliff just manages to maintain this position as a victim, or at least a hapless bystander, despite having been injured himself earlier.
We really need to revisit Cliff's injuries because they are crucial pieces of physical evidence. Earlier, he had stepped through a sabotaged sidestep on his porch.
Someone had sharpened a stake and planted it in the dirt under the steps, giving him this severe, ugly gash on the leg. And Tamsin, who saw him at the hospital, made this very strange comparison, immediately linking his injury to her own miscarriage from years before. It's just a weird, emotionally charged comment, given the circumstances.
And later, Cliff gets a second, very peculiar injury, a superficial stabbing in the back. Carrie Thrush, Lily's friend and OBGYN, observes that the low diagonal wound was totally inconsistent with a self-inflicted injury or a straight-on attack by a taller man.
Right. It was consistent with an overhand blow from someone much shorter than Cliff, suggesting a small, desperate assailant, perhaps one of the women. This detail really begins to plant that deep seed of suspicion about what's really going on in the Eggers household, this relentless, layered violence. It takes an intense personal toll on Lily. While she's juggling the PI work and the demands of this investigation, she's also facing an intense personal crisis, one she initially misinterprets because she's so hyper-focused on external threats.
She starts experiencing this inexplicable exhaustion, mood swings, a backache, and just a pervasive feeling of not being herself. And because she controls her body so meticulously, she just attributes it all to a severe case of PMS.
It's a psychological minimization of a massive biological event. She's so accustomed to fighting battles out there in the world that she completely misses the quiet war happening inside her.
The physical symptoms intensify into the sudden, painful, clenching feeling she realizes is rhythmical. Jack comes home from the grocery store, sees the immediate danger, and just panics. Lying there in bed, she experiences a miscarriage.
And it is so devastating, precisely because she never even knew she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Despite her use of birth control and prior assessments that she might not be highly fertile.
The shock is just overwhelming. She's forced into this state of extreme vulnerability. She has to have a D&C procedure. And when Carrie Thrush confirms the pregnancy and the loss, Lily internalizes it instantly. She just says, "Our baby."
That simple possessive statement, it acknowledges this profound, unspoken future that was just stolen from them.
And Jack's reaction here is definitive. He's heartbroken, he's sad, and his fierce protectiveness just takes over. He doesn't negotiate with her, he commands. When Lily protests about the medical bills, he just shuts it down. "I can."
And he dictates her recovery. He says, "You are finally going to take the time you need to recover."
This moment, which is the lowest point of her physical and emotional vulnerability, it forces Lily to recognize the power of interdependence. Her whole life had been about fierce independence and not counting the cost of survival.
But here, she acknowledges the depth of her love for Jack, realizing she loved him without counting the change or measuring the cost of that vulnerability.
And it's in the quiet aftermath after the hospital that the final secret of their relationship is revealed. Carrie, noticing their intense bond, comments how lovely it would be if the baby's parents were married.
And Lily and Jack they're real. We already are. They had married secretly a month before, choosing discretion over a public wedding, preferring to keep this most fundamental commitment private and shielded from all the external scrutiny.
This crisis, as devastating as it is, it provides Lily with a renewed clarity of mind when she finally starts to piece together the crimes. Her personal pain just fuels her analytical rigor.
She realizes the physical evidence and the timelines. They just don't support Cliff being the sole attacker. Yeah. And they definitely don't support Tamsin being a blameless victim.
She starts to view the entire sequence of events through a lens of manipulation. That anonymous call Jack got, for instance, the one that lured him back to Shakespeare right at the time of Banks's murder, it was calculated.
It was a setup, designed to ensure Jack, who was known to be furious at the true crime writer, would be physically present and could potentially be framed, or at least suspected, of the murder.
The crucial breakthrough comes when the police recover Gerry McClanahan's log, the journalist's hidden notes, and the log confirms a key observation about Cliff. He went to the tool shed the night before the gruesome squirrel murder. That strongly suggests Cliff was responsible for that act of terror.
But the log reveals something far, far more damning about Tamsin, the therapist. Gerry, the inconspicuous patrolman and writer, he had also witnessed Tamsin sabotaging her own back steps with that sharpened stake, the very steps Cliff later fell through.
And that just flips the entire narrative of victimization on its head. Tamsin was actively persecuting her husband, who was at the same time stalking her.
It confirms a toxic, internal war was just raging in the Eggers household. Lily and Jack meticulously re-examine the evidence that second attack on Cliff, the superficial, low, diagonal back wound.
And they realize this aligns perfectly with an overhand blow from someone much shorter than Cliff.
The inescapable conclusion is that Tamsin likely staged that attack on Cliff, maybe after he refused to play along with her victim narrative, or maybe just as part of their escalating pathological game. Lily now understands she isn't dealing with an external killer targeting a victim. She's dealing with two people actively tormenting each other while recruiting outsiders, including the therapy group, into their dangerous psychodrama.
Okay, so with Jack out of town again, and Lily just beginning to recover from the miscarriage, Tamsin makes her calculated final move.
She calls Lily. She claims she's too shaken up to clean her own house and requests Lily come over immediately. This is a deliberate psychological trap. It's appealing to Lily's sense of professional obligation and her deep-rooted need to help people in distress.
Lily, suspicious but compelled, arrives at the house on Compton Street, and the scene is it's perfectly orchestrated. Cliff Eggers is bound with duct tape, his mouth taped, his hands tied in front of him.
And Tamsin is waiting. She's holding a black stun gun, looking, as the sources describe her, absolutely crazed.
Tamsin begins her chilling revelation, confirming all of Lily's worst suspicions about the layers of deception. She confesses that Cliff was the original stalker back in Cleveland.
Right. Tamsin reveals Cliff was Charles, a patient who supposedly died in a bar fight. But Cliff just used that patient's identity. Cliff was simply enjoying the attention and Tamsin's fear, and he suggested the move to Shakespeare for a fresh start, only so he could continue his games and upgrade the terror.
Cliff, who's struggling violently against the duct tape, is trying to beg Lily not to let Tamsin kill him. He's frantically claiming Tamsin is off her rocker and even suggests Tamsin was the one who planted the stake in the stab.
And the truth is, both of them are lying and both of them are dangerous.
Tamsin ignores him and reveals the true depth of her betrayal and her madness. She admits she suspected Cliff was the killer when Charlaine was murdered. Cliff knew her routine, he had access to keys, he was exhibiting high-risk behavior.
But she confesses she hid in the soundproof room because she was terrified of him, not because she was unaware a murder was happening.
And here is the darkest moment of manipulation. Tamsin delivers the explicit reason she summoned Lily. Because you can kill him.
The therapist. She has meticulously tracked Lily's past history, including the man Lily killed during her previous ordeal. She's appealing to Lily's distorted sense of justice, using the very jargon she learned in therapy, believing Lily possesses a disregard for the letter of the law, my strong sense of justice.
Tamsin even claims Cliff took everything from her, maybe even something to make me lose the baby.
Lily realizes the true nature of the trap. Tamsin is staging this complex scene, appealing to Lily's core identity as a survivor who kills when necessary. The ultimate goal is not justice. It's using Lily as the executioner to eliminate Cliff, which would position Tamsin for a temporary insanity defense.
They are the ultimate example of a perfectly matching pathology where one just feeds off the fear of the other.
The confrontation is so tense. Lily feigns cooperation, buying time for her legs, still recovering from the DNC and her general exhaustion to get their strength back. Cliff, realizing Tamsin's binding technique was not too competent, is frantically working to free his wrists.
Tamsin raises her arms in this cheerleader gesture, just delighted, when Lily uses her foot to kick the phone out of Cliff's reach. She thinks Lily has sided with her.
And that's the moment Lily uses her training. She executes a swift, powerful fist to Tamsin's stomach, subduing her immediately.
Lily is left standing there, swaying, legs aching, and she recognizes that her nose is broken from the scuffle. She used her hard-won survival skills to neutralize the intellectual manipulator.
And Jack, who had sensed the danger from Tamsin's phone call and rushed back, he bursts in panting, dripping sweat, just as Lily is calling the police. His action just confirms the fundamental trust and transparency that defines their relationship.
A sharp contrast to the destructive secrecy of Tamsin and Cliff.
Right. And following their arrest, Police Chief Claude Friedrich and Detective Stokes finally pieced together the full, shocking timeline based on the couple's confessions.
Cliff, seeking retaliation and finding Tamsin fun to scare, had indeed kept the stalking going in Shakespeare, upgrading the terror. He killed Charlaine mistakenly, though Tamsin was the intended target of the display, hoping to blame Tamsin or the trauma group dynamic.
And Gerry McClanahan, the true crime writer, he stumbled upon Cliff's identity, noting him going to the tool shed before the squirrel incident. When Cliff realized Banks was watching him, he killed him to stop the log from being published, and later staged that clumsy stabbing on himself to look like a victim again.
The most profound revelation, though, is Tamsin's level of complicity. The police conclude she was far more aware of Cliff's dangerous intentions than she ever admitted. Chief Friedrich theorizes that Tamsin orchestrated the move to Shakespeare specifically because she believed the small-town police force would never be able to solve the intricate crimes she knew Cliff was committing.
This was a place where their secret destructive war could just continue unabated, with Tamsin continually leveraging the role of the victim, right up until her desperate attempt to murder Cliff by using Lily as a weapon. Hashtag tag outro.
So what we've seen here is a story of perfectly matched pathologies. Tamsin, the counselor, and Cliff, the transcriptionist, two people in professions dedicated to the human mind and to care, they locked themselves into this private war of mutual torment and calculated violence.
And their deception was so deep, it infected the very support system that was meant to heal other people.
And we contrast that dark dynamic with Lily and Jack. Their aggressive impulses, their hard times, that's all public knowledge. They operate on a foundation of transparency that is constantly being tested by trauma.
Is that transparency, that willingness to show vulnerability despite all of Lily's survival instincts, that ultimately saves her life and allows her to solve the case?
The final reckoning is just layered with irony. Tamsin and Cliff are now in custody. Their long game is over. Detective Stokes's Inspector Javert obsession was partially justified. It proved Tamsin was deeply involved in her own self-persecution.
And poor Gerry McClanahan, the true crime writer, he died for the story he never got to finish, exposed by the very mundane details he tried to avoid: a college ring and a pair of dachshunds.
Lily and Jack are left recovering, both from the physical trauma of the scuffle and the emotional devastation of the miscarriage. Lily's journey culminates not in finding peace through isolation, but in realizing that love, while being a profound vulnerability, is also an absolutely necessary source of strength.
It is essential for her hard-won survival in a world where danger lurks even in the healing space.
And so we leave you with this final provocative thought, one that echoes Lily's own reflections on survival and risk. Lily believed that no one expected to be safe until this century, and that belief drove her to protect herself physically above all else. Considering the pervasive pathological deception within the very support group designed for safety and the calculated nature of the violence she encountered, does the relentless pursuit of absolute physical safety come at a greater cost, such as the cost of vulnerability and trust, than accepting life's inherent risks? And what boundaries must we maintain, even in our closest, most intimate relationships, to protect our hard-won peace? Something to think about as you navigate the complexities of your own environment.